grateful for my husband, but also so bad because this is the like third or fourth time now he's had to take care of me when I've had some like major incident. Like 7 months into our relationship, I broke both of my arms and he had to like give me a sponge bath.
No, that is mortifying. I'm so sorry. I love that though. That should be like in a script of yours somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna go in something in the future.
Oh, that made me anxious just to have to think of that. Oh, that's so horrible.
Yeah,
God.
just like sponge bath, and then like I couldn't get my casts wet, so both of them were in like trash bags that were like taped up.
And this was 7 months into the relationship? That's
Yeah,
insane. No,
yeah.
no, no, no. That's nonsense. Whew. But hey, you guys have been together for how long now?
So we just celebrated 6 years being married, and then 8 years like together overall.
That's a long time. That's great.
It is. It's
How
crazy
did
to
y'all
think.
meet?
We met on a film set actually. So I used to live in London. I think I mentioned that to you. And did I not?
That is so cool. No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so I went to school in London for 3 years. I went to college there. And we met on a film set, and this was like I want to say a year and a half before I was set to graduate. And we like hit it off, and I was like, oh cool, like a guy in film. Um, and then shortly afterwards, his name's John. He was like, I actually am a trained scientist. He's a physicist. He's like, I was just trying out film for a little bit to see if I like it. And he's like, this industry's crazy. Like, I hate this. So I go back to science. And I was
So
like,
he's not in film anymore?
no, he actually started his own company recently. He's like creating an AI tutor that's like one of the most advanced like AIs out there. He's
He invented it?
he invented it. He wrote it. He programmed the whole thing from scratch. It's very much like Big Bang Theory in our household.
Wait, is he British? Is he from?
Yeah, he's British. He's English.
That is so cool. How have I not met him? I love people who are British. I love the Brits just because of their accent.
I know I saw your tweet. Like when you
What
meet
was it?
people and you're like poised and refined and like British or something like that.
I know. I caught myself being so proper on the dating apps. I was like, wow, I'm just so proper. I'm just trying to put my best foot forward, but it is fake. It's a lie.
Are you like,
But
full punctuation, full like spelling and everything
yeah,
when you first are
yeah.
texting?
I'm busting out the big words, like making sure these people are smart, that they can keep up. Because I mean, I think it's just a way to like weed out people who, because like I just don't want people who are like bad with grammar.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm. But let me rewind and introduce and basically explain what you're doing today, because I feel like I've never even told you about my previous show. It's still the same podcast. It's basically just transitioning. It used to be called Three Gems. Now it's called Single Writers Only, primarily because I wanted to merge this live sketch show that I have now. It's also
Mhm.
called Single Writers Only. We had our first show in December. Our next show is this month, later this month. And I'm just so lazy. And I didn't want to have to like promote multiple things. Like I just want to have one name, one umbrella.
Yeah.
And I think it'll just be better for me and people who are like coming out to the show who also can catch the podcast. And so yeah, Single Writers Only is going to basically explore like relationships, but also taking like what I like from Three Gems, which is talking about the industry, talking with writers and directors and producers, and kind of how we navigate the industry in
Mhm.
terms of relationships and power dynamics, but also like adding a more fun element of like being single in LA, which is fun to talk about.
Yeah. So do I still get to be a guest since I'm like in a happy relationship?
Yes. The more
Okay.
the merrier. I feel like the more single people see happy relationships, the more what is the word I'm looking for? Hope. The
Yeah.
more hope we have. You're giving us hope.
I feel like such an asshole sometimes though when I'm talking to my friends that are single and I'm like, just keep trying. It's gonna get, you're gonna meet the guy. Because I remember hearing that when I was single and in the back of my head being like, fuck you, like you're in a happy relationship. I'm like talking to these crusty dudes on Tinder who can like barely form a sentence.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at it from like oh, it happens eventually for everyone, and it's like, okay, you could either be jaded while you're out and dating, or you can just be like, well, there's my friend who is living proof of like, oh, it actually can work out, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that you guys met in London. Is it a film set that you can tell us about? I know, was it a movie that came out?
Yeah, no, it was like a web series project that these two like actors who are a couple came together and made, and one of my producing professors was like producing this project and just invited me to like come do behind the scenes videography, and then John was a PA, and yeah,
How did
the
you
rest
guys
is
move out to
history.
LA together? Is it just like you came out first and he came after?
Well, I'm from LA, so the plan was always to move
Oh,
back.
okay.
Yeah, and this was also during Brexit, so it was just not a great time to be a foreigner in the UK. They were making that messaging very clear. So like a year into the relationship, I had to be like, "So, my visa's up in a year, and that's about how long the process takes to, get like a visa to the United States. So we basically have to start having a discussion of like, are we gonna end things? Are we gonna continue them in the US? Because I had been in a long distance relationship briefly previous to that, and I was just not interested in doing that again.
As
So
someone who was in a long distance relationship, I understand.
yeah, so
They
it
don't
was
work.
romantic, but it was also very strange, like just having
Yeah.
like a talk at the like dining table being like, "Okay, I guess we're gonna get married then."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But it worked out
Yes, it did work
because
out. I can prove now that he is not scamming me. He's been around for a few years.
congrats. That is
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
He gave you a sponge bath. So
Yeah.
that pretty much, I think you got to keep her. That's so funny. Oh my God. So you are a dramedy writer, right? Is that how
Mhm.
you identify?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
And
comedy, dark comedy. Yeah.
okay. What's like a dream show that you'd want to write on?
Ooh, that's like currently on the air right now, or
I
just
don't
in
think just
general of
any
all
in
time?
any. Yeah.
Oh my god, Fleabag. Like, I
Yeah.
think Fleabag is the perfect dark comedy. I mean, anything that Phoebe Waller-Bridge or Martin McDonagh do, and the fact that they are a couple, just like, I wanna be in their household. I just wanna be
Me
a fly on the
too.
wall, listening to all their
Yeah.
conversations.
I bet they have a lot of fun together.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I bet they, like, have, like, the most wicked sense of humor at home.
I wonder if someone was like introducing them, if they met at an event, or if like they got set up. I want to know. I'm sure it's out there. I just don't know.
I have no idea. Also, are we recording yet?
Yeah, we're recording. We were just going into it. We're just
Alright,
chatting.
just double checking.
We're just chatting. And I printed out the email that I had sent you without your corrections, so you can just correct me as we go along. Because I know
Okay.
that I wanted to ask you about your dark comedy, which is I think you shared the first page, right? You shared the first
Yeah.
page, but what is the actual log line of your script?
Yeah, so Horn Dog is a pilot that I wrote a few years ago. And it's about this app developer named Macy who is like a party girl and she's in her late 20s. And it starts to get to that point in life where all her friends are starting to like chill out a bit more and settle down. And she realizes very slowly, oh, like I have an issue. Like I'm a sex and love addict. Because what I was seeing in college is a lot of people, having fun and going out and sleeping with a bunch of people, and that's what they want to do. But I kept wondering, like, at what point does this become a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we have to say, hey, I think this is more than just you going out and being crazy and young. Like I think you're a sex and love addict. Yeah, so that's like the basic premise of the show. And she just gets into like a lot of trouble because of her sex and love addiction, which ultimately lands her like getting arrested by this guy that like she has a crush on who's also a police officer. Uh
Red
So he
flag. Why is she in love with the police officer?
went to school together,
Oh, okay.
and they just reconnect. And that's part of the issue also, is that she's, like, very much like a cab,
Yeah.
but it has a crush on this guy.
That's so fun though. I love that. That's a great concept. How long did it take to write? Like, when did you have the idea, and then when was it like, okay, this is something I can finally share?
I originally came up with the idea in college, so this would have been maybe like 2016, 2017. And I wrote an original iteration of it that takes place in London. And then when I moved back to the US, I decided to just rework the idea because I was working on some other projects as well, but I kept coming back to this one. So I reworked the idea to take place in the Bay Area because she works in tech. And I wanna say the iteration that it's in now is probably, like, around 2019, 2020-ish.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it went through a different kind of phases and versions.
Yeah, exactly, and also, it became clear to me when I was about to graduate that, the British film market and TV market was not open to foreigners. I
Wait,
went to,
why
like,
is that?
well, the vibe that I got, because I went to a career day thing, for Channel 4, which is, like, one of the
Yeah.
biggest, networks over there,
Mhm.
and I was essentially told, that they reserve spots for British creators because it's a much smaller market, which is fine, I understand, but then I was like, "Oh, I need to go to back to Hollywood."
I mean, the dream is to just work there. I would happily move to London and go work on British television. I think that I just resonate with it more. But it's sad. I mean,
Mhm.
it's sad for us, it's good for them because they keep pumping
Yeah.
out good shit constantly.
Well, also the messaging I got the entire time that I was there is like, "What are you doing here? Everyone's trying to get to Hollywood." So, like, all, like, the big British creators eventually make it to Hollywood. It felt
That's so funny.
to them like I was going backwards, but it's the same thing as you, where I was like, "No, I resonate more with British comedy and just with, like, British content in general, you know? There's less money in it, but it's more artist, forward."
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
What are some I just want to know, like, what are some of the shows that are like your top favorite other than Fleabag that are British shows?
Oh my god, so many. Have you seen Peep Show before?
Yeah, I have seen Peep Show. I have not been able to get into it, but I kind of want to get try again.
Yeah, Peep Show is, like, one of my favorite shows of all time, just, like, British, not British, I love it so much, so Peep Show, and then the entire, like, This Is England series, so it was started off as a film and then, like, became a limited series,
Hmm.
where it was, like I think it was, like, 86, 88, 90. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, that whole This Is England series is amazing and, like, is so funny, but also has such dark moments in it too. I recently watched this show called The Detectorists that came out a few years ago, and it has Toby Jones and, fuck, I forgot his name. The guy, he was in, Pirates of the Caribbean. So it's about these 2 guys, that are, like, metal detecting hobbyists, enthusiasts, essentially, and they have this, like, club where they go out and look for treasures,
That's
and
fun.
it's such a British show, like, no, I could never see an American network putting this on because it's so calm and, like, small and contained, but so funny in the world that it creates. It doesn't play for, like, these huge laughs, and I love
Mhm.
it so much. It just felt, like, funny and peaceful at the same time, which is so bizarre to me, like, I'm so used to seeing, like, just insane content where, like, people are, like, being shot and, like, all these other crazy things.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, I'll recap when we're done talking about like shows so that we can just like remember and write them so I can remember and then go watch them. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's two. Do you have another one?
Um, I'm trying to think of big ones. Oh, there was a whole series that, the guy who created Queer as Folk made, Russell T. Davis. So it's called Tofu, Banana, and Cucumber, and it's basically the stages of erection. And it,
Says what? What is the show
yeah,
about?
so it's kind of like difficult to explain, but essentially the main channel 4 had Cucumber, and it was like about like a 40 something like queer man who has an identity crisis,
Uh-huh.
and he breaks up with his long-term partner and then like goes and lives with all these like young queer people. And then Banana was on Channel 4's like sister network, and it was like a slightly smaller cast. And Tofu was like a web series, but they were all happening simultaneously in this like
What?
world. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was so like ambitious. I've never seen anything since then and before then.
Oh my God, I need to watch this. Where can I watch this?
I'm not sure because Channel 4 content is kind of hard to find.
Do I need a VPN to get Channel 4?
I
Like,
mean, yes, I didn't want to say that, but yes, you have to, have to
but
have a
why
VPN.
is a VPN illegal? I'm so
Yeah,
confused.
it
My brother
is.
has one.
It is.
Oops. My brother has one and I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to get one because I could watch all of my British reality TV shows that I like and I could watch all the Channel 4 content I want to watch."
Mhm.
But you know what show I wanted to tell you about, which I'm sure you've already seen? I tweeted about it. Such Brave Girls that is on Hulu.
No, I
Thank
haven't
God
seen it.
it's Oh my God, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I already know you're gonna love it. It is such a funny, funny, funny dark comedy about these two sisters who are very mentally unwell and their mom who is also insane. And her mom is like dating a new guy, and then these two girls are having their own relationship issues. But truly one of the funniest things I've seen in a long, long time. And yeah, it's on Hulu. So that's
Nice.
nice.
Okay, I'll check it out. You had me at mentally ill and funny.
Oh my God, they're so
That's
mentally
right
ill. It's
right
so
up my
sad.
alley.
Yeah, do you know who Kat Sadler is?
No, it doesn't sound familiar. It doesn't ring a bell.
The name sounded so familiar to me, but when I Googled her, I was like, oh, I actually don't know who this is. Maybe I just like remember seeing her name somewhere, but she's a British writer, and she's the creator and she's also the actor in it. And yeah, she's so funny. She's so talented.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Happy Valley is not a dark comedy, but it's one of
Oh
my
yeah,
top favorite dramas. I
I
love it.
love Happy Valley.
Love Happy Valley. And it's
Yeah,
actually on Paramount. Is it on Paramount or Showtime that they just brought it over?
I'm not sure.
I
I think
don't
I
know.
watched it on Netflix originally.
Uh-huh. A long, long
Yeah,
time ago. First two seasons were on Netflix. They took it off and now
yeah.
it's somewhere else. But
Yeah.
I fell off of it, unfortunately. I want to try to jump back on it again.
I don't
Um,
know what it is. I don't know if you agree with me on this. I cannot stand American cop shows, but for some
no.
reason, British like cop and crime shows are so good. They're so
There's
interesting.
there's something so gritty and like mysterious about the cops in the UK, whereas like
Yeah.
American cops are just so slimy, and because of I think more, you know, conflicted view of them, I think it's hard for us to actually like enjoy cop shows. But like people who have no problems with cops, I'm sure enjoy whatever cop show, is on
Yeah.
ABC or whatever. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of like it feels very much like Cops and Robbers are like Cowboys and Indians in terms of like American cop shows, but then British cop shows, they just seem more like complex and they
Yeah.
show the police like in a more
Well-rounded
rounded
way.
way. Yeah, like have you seen
Yeah.
Slow Horses?
No, but I was just it's the Apple show, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, and I was literally just talking to someone about it this morning, and I guess I need to watch it. That's the second time in one day that I've heard about it.
Incredible, incredible show. But yeah, it's so funny when I watch that show, I don't think this is a cop show. And then afterwards, I'm like, damn, like I'm just really indoctrinated in this world of like fancy police, essentially.
But are they fancy, or do they just have an accent? Like,
No,
is Slow
they're
Horses
fancy
fancy?
because they're spies. They're MI5. But
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
but like
Okay.
the main guy, Jackson Lamb, who's played by Gary Oldman, is truly one of the most disgusting characters I've ever seen, but in the best way. Like in season 2, they somehow managed to make him even more, like, greasy and grimy, and he always just has, like, bits of food stuck to his shirt and, like
Ew. Oh, Gary Oldman. That's right. When I saw that they got renewed for a season 2, I was like, okay, well, they had Gary Oldman. They had to give the show like another season. But no, it's because a lot of people watched it, right? A lot of
Yeah,
people watched Slow Horses.
I can swear on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, in season 2, I won't give it away, but essentially one of the, people in Slow Horses in the team is very flashy, and he has this, like, really insane car, and when, Gary Oldman's character sees it, he's like, "Fuck me with a wire brush."
Oh my god. Ow. Oh my god. I used to work at a talent agency, APA, and I would sit right next to the agent who repped Gary Oldman, and it was just such a running gag that it was like his entire life was Gary Oldman. This agent just like lived and breathed for him. So that was
Yeah,
all. He was his biggest client, and he was like the agency's biggest client. So that was their big get. But I mean, rightly so. He's a great actor.
yeah, he's a gem.
He's a gem. So you have a writing partner.
I do,
And
yeah.
I remember when I met you and Angel like years and years ago, I was like, holy shit, they're like an actual writing team. And you guys like got rep together. You keep writing. How long have you been writing together for now?
Oh my god, we now have been writing 7 going on 8 years. Isn't that
That's
crazy? I
that's
have been writing
longest
with
relationship
Angel.
ever.
Yeah, I've been writing with Angel almost as long as I have been with my husband. It's like the 2 biggest relationships in my life.
I mean, do you think that it's like what am I trying to ask? Is it how have you managed to keep a writing, because writing for me is so difficult just by myself. I can't
Mhm.
imagine it being any easier with a writing partner, but then I can also see why you'd want to be in a team.
I think we just got very lucky in the sense that our ambitions are very matched. Like, there's no plan B for us, there's no alternative career. It's this, and we'll try to keep doing this until like the big break happens. I had previously collaborated with other people, and then for whatever reason, I stopped contacting them, they stopped contacting me, like we just kind of fell
Mm,
off.
mhm.
Whereas with Angel and I, we're both so determined that if one of us doesn't hear from the other one for like a week, then we'll reach out and just be like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, we should touch base and like see what we're gonna do next with this project, or like if we're gonna start another project or whatever like meetings we have to set." And I think also something that really helps is we don't take things personally. Like, it's always in pursuit of the work, and we have like a mutual respect for each other. So we understand
Mm,
that when one person pitches something, if the other one doesn't love it, they're gonna say something, and it's not like to hurt the other person's feelings. It's to make the work the best that it can be.
yeah, I think your energies just match up and you complement each other, which is cool to see. Because you guys got repped about what, a year and a half ago, or was it?
Yeah, but crazy development. So I remember one of the things you asked me or you wanted to talk about was like the highs and lows of the past 3 years. We got repped, and then a week after the writer's strike, our manager got laid off. And it just feels like we're in this never-ending like episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So for a little bit of context, in 2019, we decided not to do any of the fellowship applications, and we were like, we're just gonna work on our portfolio and make our scripts the best that they can be. We had been given some advice from this producer who's been like a mentor to us to write a 30-minute, a 60-minute, a spec, and a feature. So we were like, we're gonna take a
That's
whole
good
year
advice. Yeah.
and do that. And so then at the start of 2020, we're like, we're coming in strong. We got all these scripts ready to go. We're not rushing to make the deadlines anymore. And then the pandemic happens. And so we're like, okay, we got to keep going. So then we get through the pandemic. Uh we thankfully become finalists in the Ojalad lab. That was
Mhm.
Tanya Sriracha's lab. And even though we didn't get in, her team put together this dossier of the names of like the 20 something finalists and sent it out to all their industry contacts, which changed our life. Like that was the biggest thing that ever happened for us. So out of that, we got a bunch of meetings, and then we got connected to our rep who we signed with, and we're like, okay, this is gonna be our staffing season next, like meaning 2023. And then the writer's strike happens. We're like, just gotta keep going, just gotta keep like, pursuing the thing and like trying to stay positive. It ends. Our manager calls us and tells us he's been laid off. And every time I just hear that Curb Your Enthusiasm theme music in the
The
back
theme
of my
music.
head.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It is the most frustrating thing of this industry. It's like you take 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. No, 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. That's what it feels like. And I
Yeah.
just think that eventually that it's just going to make the success like feel so much better once we achieve it. I mean,
Yeah.
success is just, we are already successful because we've somehow managed to stay afloat. I know that you don't work in the entertainment industry, right? You have a day job that's
Mhm.
completely different, which is
Yeah,
so
exactly.
cool. But you've found success in still being in it, which I think is really cool. Um, and we have to stop maybe trying to like, I don't know, thinking that once we get this, we'll be successful. Once we get that, we'll be successful. It's like
Mhm.
we're writing, and people are reading our stuff. That's huge.
Yeah, and it's interesting also because I think a lot of people think in that mentality, like once this thing happens, I'll be set or I'll be happy for the rest of my life. And I used to be an assistant. I was an assistant for a few years, and one of the people that I was an assistant to did like a Comic-Con panel, and I remember saying to her like, "Oh, that's so cool that you're like getting to do Comic-Con, Like, are you excited?" She was like, "No. Once you've been doing this for this long, like,
Oh,
you're get
so
used to it."
jaded.
Yeah, exactly, and I couldn't help but think to myself, like, I hope I never become that, like, I hope I never forget how
Mm-hmm.
lucky we are to A, be doing this, but also then to reach that level where people are interviewing you and wanna talk to you at Comic-Con.
I know. But I also do understand where they're coming from, like the jadedness. It's just like, yeah, you can have your jaded days, but I'm hoping those people are like not that miserable, right? And they can remember that this is what they wanted. That
Yeah, I
sucks.
don't know. I think also though, just being like the daughter of an immigrant really
Yeah.
helps keep me grounded a lot.
Yes.
Because even
Yes.
when I'm having like these crazy things happening to me, I'll think to myself like, oh yeah, it really sucks that like I don't know, my industry's gone on strike and then my manager got laid off, but it's so much better than like my mom living in a tin shack in Tijuana with her like six siblings, and then
Yeah.
being undocumented and having to learn English like by watching TV.
I think about that all the time. I think about how the generations have progressed in such a dramatic way. Like you and your mom, me and my mom, like who would if you told like your mom or if you told my mom like that their daughters would be pursuing a career in Hollywood, they'd be like, "What? Really?" Like that's kind of far-fetched. But the fact that we're able to do it is so cool. It speaks to how much I think it paid off that they were willing to take that risk. Um and just to like give us better opportunities. Like it paid off and thank
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
I mean, I think my mom's still secretly hoping I'm gonna go to med school, but like that's a whole other story.
Yeah, maybe she's not too happy about maybe she's not thinking it paid off. She's out here thinking it has been the opposite of that.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, she was like, "Have you thought about getting a master's?" And I was like, "For what?" And she just
Well,
couldn't really give me an answer.
she's probably like, that's what the kids are doing. You should just go get one. She's not
Yeah, well,
wrong.
she has like all the degrees. Like she's got like all
Mhm.
the certificates. She has a master's in like education. Like she's just short of a PhD, basically.
Oh my God. I know my mom has a master's degree too and she loves going to school and I'm like, I hate nothing more than sitting in a
Yeah.
classroom. Taking
Right.
tests. I'm sorry, my blood sugar dropped
Okay.
because when after I talk to people for a certain amount of time and like am in the presence of people, I just get like the energy just drains out of me.
Mm.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, yeah, all the
Yeah,
time. I
I know.
actually read about this phenomenon where when you are, like, on a video call with someone, because you can't see their full body language, your body gets, like, on edge and really tense because you don't know exactly, like, how to respond or, like, what they're feeling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
you don't realize it in the time. You're like, "Oh, I'm chill, I'm calm." But then after the fact when you hang up the Zoom call, you're like you just relax and you're like, "Oh, I can breathe again." But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
I used to
How
work at a
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say I used to work at a talent management company, and that's I was working as an assistant when the pandemic happened, and I remember getting off of some of those Zoom calls and my hands just being like so clammy, like at my side as I'm like trying to look engaged and stuff.
The clammy hands is something that has only happened to me like recently after like I think maybe 2 years. I used to when I was younger, I used to not have like the anxiousness and the clammy hands. It used to not be an issue, and as I've gotten older and more neurotic and more self-aware and more anxious, I've just like become this like drenched pool of sweat. It's so weird.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's something my husband and I talk about a lot. We're like, are we too self-aware? Is there such a thing as too much therapy?
I think there is because I read this really insane data thing that was like 78% of people are not self-aware, and I was like, "Huh? You
Yes,
mean to
I've
tell
read that as
me
well.
you mean to tell me that it always blows my mind when I meet people who are do not have anxiety. I'm like, "Wait, what? Like how do you exist?" And they're probably
Yeah.
just not self-aware. Wait, I wanna go back to being an assistant. That
Mhm.
whole thing is such a mind fuck, and you how long were you an assistant? Because I know you're not an assistant anymore.
Yeah, I was an assistant for, let's see, about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. On and off. It wasn't, like, totally like, I wasn't totally employed the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, 6 years.
How would you say you went into it? Like, what were your expectations going into that world? And then was it when you left?
Oh my god, Helen, I was a mess when I went into it. I was a mess when I went into it and when I left. So, when I went into it, I was a mess just in the sense that was like a baby 21-year-old, 22-year-old at this point, did not understand myself very well and was like, I'm going to go into it and then like I'm going to do amazingly and I'll be an assistant for like 3 years tops and then my boss will take me under their wing and then I'm going to become a writer and everything's going to be okay. And
It's insane. I had literally the same thought.
yeah, and then I get in the job and I'm like, "Oh, not only am I terrible at this, but everyone here is so fucking mean and I don't understand like why they're all angry all the time. Like we're making movies and TV. This is not brain surgery, you know what I mean? And so I first worked at an entertainment marketing company, and that was actually pretty chill. I was a PA there, but I wouldn't say that was like, a heavy assistant role. My
Mhm.
next job after that, though, I worked at a studio for a couple of like C-level execs, and that was being thrown into the lion's pit. That was very much a sink or swim situation, of which I will like not proudly admit, but I'll be honest, I sank. I was like, this is not for me. Like I just realized assistant work is not for everyone. And I had a revelation recently, 3 months ago. I was formally diagnosed with ADHD. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I'm not good at assistant work because my brain cannot do these things, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't understand in this industry why you're expected to have the same skills of like doing someone's like calendar and like, emails and all these really detail oriented things in order to become a writer. It's almost like the two are the opposite sides of the brain.
Completely opposite. I don't know who thought that this would be a good idea.
Yeah, I'm in awe of the people that can do the assistant, climb and make it to the writer's room, but I just truly don't get it.
I agree 100%. I went into it very hopeful like you, and then I am still in it, but I am so jaded by it. So jaded by it and so detached. Like I think it's actually a good thing that I'm detached. I'm detached in a way of like I thought that this would be the path for me, and I no longer think that it will be the
Right.
path for me. And it's taken a long time to come to that realization. I now look at it through the lens of I get to meet a lot of great people. I thank
Mhm.
God I'm like surrounded by nice people. But at the beginning of it, I was surrounded by miserable people who like but they were agents. They were cutthroat. They had assistants who were also cutthroat and mean for some reason. And it just like it's this culture of just like I actually don't know how to describe it. I don't know what the culture is. I think it's just very, very catty, very it's what it is? I think it's just a lot of insecure people.
It feels like you're in Succession. When I started watching Succession, I was like, "Oh, this is what, like, being a Hollywood assistant feels like," where, like, you think you're getting along with everyone, and then someone just, like, says some really backhanded thing, and it takes you a second because 'cause you're, like, so stunned. You're like, "What just happened?"
It fucked up my self-esteem. It ruined a lot of the ways I thought I could
Mhm.
like interact with people, like power dynamics wise. Like I had to act a certain way in front of agents and I had to be a certain way in front of like writers and producers and it messed up my view of the world. I became just way more insecure. I already was an introverted person. It just sent me into like introversion 2.0, but it was just like really hard to climb out of that. I think that looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I would not have done it. I wish I
Yeah,
wouldn't have done it. I think I would have been, I don't know if I would have been a better writer because I think that I became a good writer because I was immersed in the writing aspect of it all.
mhm.
But it would have made me at least like more normal maybe and not so self-aware and like cringy and neurotic. But
Yeah.
what was I gonna say? Oh,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You don't wanna become a jaded person, but when you keep encountering people like this, and, Hollywood has a high density of them, you do start to become very standoffish and, like, not trusting of these people, and that was, like, a big reason why I decided to leave assistant world also. I realized that, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, the way that creatives are treated versus the way that people on the executive side are treated is the complete opposite. And like, yes, they are blowing smoke up their clients' asses, but I would much rather have that side of things than like see what's going on, behind the scenes. Like when I was at that management company, I would hear all the time managers being on the phones to their clients and like saying whatever they wanted to hear and being like, "You're a superstar, like, don't let this affect you, you're gonna be amazing, blah blah," and then hang up the phone and just talk so
shit.
much shit about
Talk
them.
so much shit about them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
I don't wanna go into rooms knowing a lot of this stuff about people. I'm like,
Me
it
neither.
it sounds naive, but I just
I
wanna
want
go
to be naive. I want to be naive.
I wanna go into a room and I meet that person for the first time, and that's all that I know about them. I don't know all their, like, crazy sordid details.
I know. It makes me really sad for humanity and like just the amount of like nasty people that are out there that do still get to succeed and do get to just be in positions of power. It makes me really sad. But then it also helps me be really immensely grateful for the people who I have around me who are genuinely nice human beings. I I could count them all on one hand because there's not a lot of them, but it's like I treasure them. I'm like, oh, you guys are so nice. But it's hard to come by like nice, genuine people, you know?
Yeah, and I do think also part of the reason why I haven't gotten as far as I have yet is because I'm not really interested in playing the game.
Exactly.
Like I
Yeah.
would rather have more genuine people around me and have it take a little bit longer to reach my end goal than, like, be a social climber, you know, which I've seen so many people doing, and a small part of me is very jealous that they're so good at it, but I'm not that person. I can't be disingenuine.
The social climbing is hilarious. It's hilarious because sometimes I'm just like, I think I have friends who are social climbers, and I'm like, what's going on? I thought you wanted to be my friend. I thought we were actually friends. And you have to take a step back and you have to just like, oh, I think they're coming at it from a very much not what's the word? Not manipulative, but what's the word? Calculated. They're being calculated.
Mhm.
And there's a part of me that really respects that. I really respect you and your calculated ass, like choosing who you think you should be friends with because you think it will help you succeed. It's gonna come back and bite you in the ass. But if that's what you think you
Yeah,
need to do to like get to the next day, go for it. Go for it.
yeah. It is so funny though, whenever I get some small little piece of success, like, and I have something published in Deadline or I put something on Instagram, how many people come out of the woodwork and message me? And I'm just like, where were you guys for the past 6 months to a year?
I know. I know. It's so fucking fake. It's so fake. Like Twitter interactions are funny to watch. Um I think it's also hilarious that we're all lying to ourselves. Like we are all aware of this. We're all aware of like, okay, I'm gonna comment on someone and say congratulations. I don't know them. I could give two shits if they're like dead or alive, but I want to be seen as someone who's happy for them or friends with them or associated with them. And we're all
Yeah,
aware that we're doing this, but it's hilarious
yeah.
that we're just like, we just keep doing it.
Well, also just networking. I don't know about you, I'm so terrible at networking because I don't wanna be a disingenuous person, and it feels very bizarre to me that I have to, like, pretend to be someone's friend in order to ask them, like, for a favor of a question. I don't know of any other industry like this. I wish we could just all be straight up with each other, you know, and just be like, "Hey, I lost my manager, like, do you know of any, like, any reps that are taking clients right now?" Rather than
Yeah.
having to, like, play this game.
I know. I know. I couldn't I can't. Yeah, I do. Part of me does want to be a little bit more of a social climber, but I'm just like it just feels icky.
It's so icky. I know
It's so
exactly what you
icky.
mean.
It's so icky, but I want to be like I just want to have money. Like I'm at a point in my life where I'm like money would be really nice right now.
Yeah, it's like, it feels icky, but I also wanna get a membership to San Vicente Bungalows, that would be nice.
I can't wait until we actually have memberships there and we're like both sitting there like this is not fun and we just have to go somewhere else because it's
Yeah.
probably not fun. um that's funny. Ah, what was I gonna ask you? Okay, so you're not an assistant anymore.
Mhm.
How do you navigate setting time? Is I in my head I'm like, oh, it's probably so easy for Sarah to just be like, okay, work's over, let me go write. But I know that's probably not true. Like you're busy.
Yeah, well, it's also a situation, like, so when I decided to consciously stop being an assistant, like, was very aware that I was not gonna have these built-in, like, interactions anymore, like, I wouldn't be emailing with other assistants at work, you know, it's not like they would be reaching out to me to set drinks and how they were before, so I would have to make more of an effort to go out to, like, networking events and, like, arrange coffees myself. And so I've been trying to do that essentially, and be more proactive just about keeping in touch with people. And then I mean with writing, it's like, you know how it goes. It's is your brain able to do it today? I'm not a big New Year's resolution person, but I did make like a resolution that I was going to write for a minimum of 15 minutes every day. And the chances were that I was going to probably do more than that. And so far it's been working out.
Oh, that's cool though, but I'm curious just because I want to see if I can do it. When do you do it? In the morning, in the night, in the mid afternoon?
Oh,
Like when do
at
you do
night.
it?
I'm very much a night owl. I am not
What
a morning person.
but what kind of mood are you in? Like do you do it before you eat? I'm like tell me exactly when you do it so I can do it too.
Okay, so generally when I write, it's very late at night. I'm not sure why. I'm sure I'll break this down with my therapist at some point, but that's like when my brain
Yeah.
comes alive and I have the most ideas and I like feel the most prolific or whatever. So it's usually like around like 8 or 9 p.m. I would say
Hmm.
that I sit down and I write for maybe like an hour, maybe like 2 hours if I'm on a roll. Sometimes literally though 15 minutes. Sometimes I just write down a couple notes and I'm like, "All right, that's all I had today."
And you've just kind of like blocked it off in your calendar, or it's like you find yourself at this at the table at like 8 p.m. Like when do you?
It's more the second one. I wish I was that organized. I saw this
Okay.
meme the other day that was like ADH people dislike authority but also crave organization and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so me."
I hate authority. I
So
dislike it so much, but I want to know. I want to have my month mapped out. I have a calendar in my bathroom that's actually worked really well because I'll have like random ideas in the bathroom and I'll just like scribble them down. But
mhm.
I have not actually been diagnosed with ADHD. I have a suspicion that I maybe could be, well, only because my mom has a lot of ADHD tendencies.
Mhm.
But, it's one of those things that's like I'll put off. I'll just put off being diagnosed. But I do have I've had access to an Adderall like medicine, like modafinil, that has
Yeah.
really helped me when I want to get some work done, but then I feel so dead the next day. I'm like, "Oh, that was rough and probably not worth it." So,
Yeah.
I should probably look into. How do you feel like medication has helped you?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I also say that most creative people I know are a little like neurospicy. I like to call it like
Yeah.
we all have something a little bit going on that we feel the need to express ourselves in these ways. But the way I like to think about ADHD for myself, so it's called ADHD, but it's like a big umbrella term. I don't have the hyperactive part of it. I just have like what would have been known as ADD back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it used to feel like I had, like, 10 TV channels on at the same time that are
Mhm.
just, like, randomly flipping while there's, like, a little chorus of a song just playing on a loop.
It's like a theme park with, like, rides and music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a really fucked up theme park slash, like, conspiracy theory lair, essentially.
That's so
And since
funny.
I started taking medication, it's, like, become much more quiet. There's, like, 4 channels on now, and I'm like, "Wow, this is what it's like to be, like, whatever, quote, unquote, "normal," you know? Like, to not just feel like you're going crazy all the time.
That's awesome. That's good that you found something that, like, worked and is helping you. Like, I love the feeling of when I finally clicked with my, like, Wellbutrin and my Lexapro. I was like, "Oh, this is nice." Like, it took a long
Yeah.
time to get here, but now we figured it out.
What's funny is I used to be on Lexapro and it didn't work because I have ADHD. So it was like we weren't treating the main thing that was causing the anxiety and depression. You know what I mean? Like
So what would you feel on Lexapro?
nothing. I would
Oh,
feel
it just didn't.
exactly the same.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
No, it does definitely help tune down my anxiety, but it weirdly makes me very sweaty. And I think the Wellbutrin also. So just it's not great. The side effects are not great. And
Right.
unfortunately, I lost my medication in Texas. So
Oh no.
I've been 7 days without medication. And I was telling Kay, I was like, I feel so depressed and it feels like such a waste of time. I'm like, I'm just here sad for no reason. And I could be doing 10 million things. But
Shit. I mean, yeah, are you like good? Are you having some like crazy withdrawals?
yesterday I felt really, really bad and I was like, this is not good. But today I feel a lot better and I'm probably gonna have to just get back on my medication. I was thinking that it was probably gonna be fine. And it turns out no.
If you stop taking that cold turkey, that's not
I
good.
know. It's not good. And it wasn't my intention, but I genuinely lost my medication and they would not send me new medication to Texas. So it was just a necessity to be cold turkey. The one question that I will ask under this segment, the "Why Are We Still Single" segment, I want to
Mhm.
know if this is insane, but I want to know if I should be in a relationship like you, if it's going to make me a better human being and like more productive. Do you think that that would work?
All right, so this is like my philosophy, I guess, on being in a relationship, like as an artist. I think no matter what you do, it's gonna take time away from your
Exactly.
art, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to spend more time with your partner.
Mhm.
It's to me personally, just from what I've seen and experienced, it's not worth it just for the sake of being in a relationship. Like, if you're one of the people like me who I guess get lucky and are, like, not dating a psycho, like some other people I've dated, um, it's totally worth it just in the sense that I get, like, a lot of security from my partner, like, I feel incredibly lucky that I have found someone who, like, we care about each other a lot,
Mhm.
but I will say that I've noticed there's this, like, really toxic, unhealthy belief that the more, like, tortured you are or the more, like, you're in a relationship with some other, like, fucked up artist, that it's gonna make you a better artist or whatever, or that you should, like, be slightly mentally ill to be a good artist is such bullshit. Like, I don't
Yeah.
agree with that at all.
Mm-mm. Me neither. Me neither. I think that the fucked up thing that I recognize within myself that I do believe is that the taking time away from writing to be with a partner is so true, and like you have to just be just better at time management, and I unfortunately feel like I failed at that when I was in a relationship. I was so codependent and not able to manage my time, and I would resent my partner for not having that time to go and like be writing. It's like, "Oh, I could have been writing." But it's like, "Girl, you probably were not going to be writing anyways, you know?"
Yeah.
So I do find that I love being just independent right now is giving me so much more time to be like creative. But it's like the pros and cons. It's like, well, I don't have that balance, I don't have that security, and I don't have that like comfort in a person. Um, but it kind of forces me to like find that within myself, which is
Yeah, totally.
also maybe something I should do.
It's
I don't
hard
know.
though. I mean, I'm talking to you after like years of therapy and medication, and like when I first met my husband, I very much like had attachment, codependent anxiety issues. And through this relationship, I have like healed that part of me, I feel like. So if anything were to happen to us, I wouldn't be like scrambling to go find another person to date. I would probably be okay like being on my own for a little bit. But I totally get it. And especially like when you're first dating someone, you do have to put extra time and effort into it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's that catch 22 of am I going to take time away from my art to, you know, find a partner to be with like but potentially it doesn't work out, or am I just like not going to have a partner right now, focus on my art, but then I feel like I'm missing that part of my life.
Yeah, I know. It's annoying. It's annoying that you have to like it's like I don't want to sacrifice anything. I just want to have it all. I
Yeah.
want to have my cake and eat it too. Um, okay, so the pros and perks is another segment that I just like. I like to talk about the positive things of like what's in our industry, and I guess we kind of talked about it and like the whole relation to success and what that is. But what are other some sort of like pros that you find as a writer?
I mean, I feel like ever since I started getting more involved, like in the BIPOC creative community, that's been like a really great source of support. It seems like we all understand that we're in this together and like we have each other's back. And it does feel kind of comforting that most of the people that I've met in that community are seemingly sane,? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like we are the future of the industry and we're gonna stop like doing all this like crazy toxic bullshit that's happening right now. And then other pros of like, you know, is it basically like when things are going well, like what goes really well? Is that like the question?
Well, it's more so just like anything that you enjoy that comes out of yeah when things go well, or just like when things are just with just life, you know?
Oh, I mean, I just love writing. Like I've
Yeah.
been doing this now unpaid for literally years, like almost a decade of my life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of proven to myself that I would continue to do this and probably do it even better if I could just dedicate all of my time to it. And I have
I
gotten
know.
paid for a couple of projects that I loved. It didn't feel like work to me. I was like, "Oh, this is fun. Like we're breaking down story and we're like writing dialogue. Like this is as someone who has worked so many shitty customer service jobs, like this is not work to me."
That's so funny. I know, it's like, oh god, I can't wait. I can't wait to just like show up to work and then just have it be my writing that I have to work on, Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
I know. Do you miss being on as you kind of spoke about being on sets. Do you miss being on sets at all?
I'm not a big on-set person, and I think a big part of that, is because I've been a PA or, like, in that type of a role. I'm sure it's very different when you have your own trailer and, like, you can sit and, like, get coffee at your own leisure.
Yeah.
But maybe it's an ADH thing as well. I kinda just like to sit and, like, have all my stuff and be really focused, whereas when you're on set, there's, like, so many things, like, happening all the time. But then saying that, I also direct. So, honestly, I don't know. TBD.
Yeah.
I used
TBD.
to think I wanted to be a showrunner, and then I became a showrunner's assistant, and I was like, "Oh, this is a 24/7 job." Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if this is for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is a lot. It is a lot. And it takes like being in that position to understand like, oh, now that I'm seeing it, maybe it's not for me. And I feel like that's always like a good thing to do. Make sure you like do the thing first and then decide whether or not you actually want to do it. How has um directing been as far as getting out of a strike? Like, are you prioritizing it more this year? How do you feel about like directing your own stuff versus other people's writing?
Yeah, definitely. I've been prioritizing a lot more this year. I have a short in pre-production right now. I have a music video in pre-production, and the last time I directed was in 2017, and I held off primarily because of resources. I was like, I don't have the money to do this the way that I want to direct, at a
Yeah.
higher
Yeah.
level, but also
Mhm.
when you're like not driving people and, like, doing catering and, like,
Oh yeah.
doing, like, 10 million jobs, you know? I just wanna be able to show up to set and, like, focus on working with the actors, so it's been feeling good, like, to get back into it and also to own that word and that title again. I didn't call myself a director for a very long time because I wasn't doing it, and I had a bit of imposter syndrome, and I'm like, "Wait, I've directed, like, 3 shorts, like, what am I talking about?" Like, I
I
am a
know.
director.
I had no idea either. I feel like maybe you did not mention it whenever we hung out, and or maybe we were just specifically talking about writing. But that's so cool that you've had these shorts. I would
Yeah,
love
I'm
to
very
watch
much
them.
a writer first, like, writing is the big passion, but directing, I think, is also there in some, I don't know, weird control way where I wanna see my vision come to life my way.
I understand 100%. Yeah. I think that I was listening to, oh my gosh, James Cameron and he interviewed Greta Gerwig. Have you
Yes.
seen that?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I've loved
And
that interview so much.
it was so good. I was so bummed that they weren't in person, and then I was like, "Oh, this is actually a really good interview." Like I think it helped that they had spoken before. They talked before, and
Mhm.
like I don't know, maybe I don't know, but I liked the way they spoke about writing in relation to directing and how that they kind of navigate that. That was really interesting to listen to.
Yeah, it felt like a master class. I sent that to, like, 3 of my friends who are also writers, and I was like, "Watch this."
Oh my god, I know. I want to go back and rewatch it because I was just like so nodding to everything that they were saying, and also just like not having seen it in that way. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting to think about it like that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, the way Greta writes is so crazy. It's like the complete opposite of the way I write, just in the sense that she gets like little snippets of dialogue and interesting scenes and then starts making a collage of them and then like writes herself into walls. I'm like, my brain cannot process this.
I can't either. I can't either. I need to outline first. But you know what was insane to me? The craziest part was she said that Noah and her just write. There's no outline, no nothing. They just go into script. I'm
Yeah,
like, girl,
it's
that is so
wild.
much more work. That is so much more work. In my head, I'm like, that is so much more work. But when you get to their level of like communication and style, I think obviously that makes so much sense for them.
Yeah, and also I think, at this point they've proven themselves that they know what they're doing basically, It's not
Yeah.
like I imagine if she told that to, like, a really experienced screenwriter 10 years ago, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like, you need to outline and you need to do all these different steps," and it's like, "Oh, no, okay, you got this, like, you have your own method."
Yeah. you have your own method. And that's sometimes what I have to tell myself when I'm like doing weird things. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna gaslight myself. Like, I know this works for me, and I just have to
Mhm.
like finish it. And then, you know, yeah, I just remember being recently surprised at myself when like I was able to get this feature into a feature so quickly, and I was like, damn, like I'm actually getting better. I'm actually getting better at
Yeah.
this.
It's a
It's a
nice
nice
feeling,
feeling.
isn't it, when you, like, you get faster and you get better and it just, like, the ideas come a little quicker. You're like, "Oh, wow, like, I've been doing this for long enough that I can see improvement."
Oh, the best feeling ever is like when you go and then hand that off to someone and they validate it and
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh my god, you like it?" You're like, "What? You like it?" It's insane. It's so funny. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, shit talking saves lives is our next segment, and I actually wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
pull back something that you just mentioned earlier that I am gonna not calling you out, but I'm calling at just overall, I'm calling it out. I think that the community, the BIPOC community, specifically the Latinx community, I feel like when it comes to writers and like being on each other's team, I find that to be 100% true. Like I love meeting writers. That's specifically why I wanted to make the podcast. I was like, I just want to write. I just want to talk about writing with other people and like directing. When it comes
Mhm.
to the executives, who I used to kind of think had the same, oh, I don't know how to word this, and I also don't want to like say the wrong thing. Luckily, I can also edit this. But it's just like I feel like there's do you know what I'm trying to say? I just feel like there are some Latinx execs that have,
Big crabs in a bucket.
yeah, they've just like kind of forgotten
Oh,
that
yeah,
there's a problem with the structure of
and
things.
that was why I said BIPOC community and not Latina
Oh,
community.
I
Um,
see.
do not get me wrong, I love my fellow Latina creatives. We are all in this ship together, and I very much understand and feel that. It is the exact same thing as you're talking about, though, that, like, there are a few gatekeepers at the top
Yeah. Yeah.
who have been doing this for so long, and maybe they came up at a time also when there weren't as many opportunities, and, you know, what is that saying? Like, gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss, like, that is the vibe that I get from a lot
Wait,
of
that
them.
should be there. That should be the saying. What gaslight girl boss?
Gatekeep, gaslight, girl
Gate
boss.
gaslight girl boss. GGG.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the vibe that I get from a lot of them, and something that made me realize how much more people could be doing and they don't do is, like I mentioned earlier, you know, Angel and I were finalists in the Ojalá Lab, and Tanya and her team put together that dossier and shared it with their contacts. They didn't have to do that. It was very easy for them not to do that, but
Yeah.
it changed our lives, and something a lot of other people could be doing is just reading great writers that for whatever reason they can't hire, and then just go on Twitter and say, "This person's really good and they're available for hire." And it would make a huge difference. And it's just shown me how easy it is to uplift other voices and how many people don't do it.
I
So yeah,
know.
there's
It's
there's been some
heartbreaking.
disappointment in that. And then
I
also,
know. Yeah.
I don't know if this is like too hot of a take. I don't think there's enough critique in the Latina community, and it's, like, watering down our content. Have you noticed this?
I have, and I have a complicated feeling with it. I have a really complicated feeling about it because it's like I understand that to be 100% true, but then there's also a part of me that's like I understand that we just want to fucking get our shit out there, and it is going to get watered down, but it's at least going to get eyes on our culture and eyes on our creators and eyes on, you know, the stories we want to tell. But at the same time, it's like you're risking it not coming out as it
Yeah.
should, like as it could.
Yeah, there's this, like, weird
Yeah.
thing, though, that's happening, in the industry in general, but also specifically in Latina Hollywood, where if you critique something, it's basically like you saying that you hate it, and it's like an attack on the creator, you know what I mean? And as a writer, when I get notes, I want people to like give me their honest opinion. I don't want
Yeah.
a watered down version of the notes because it's not going to create anything better.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And I think that's something that I have to get better at because in general I do take critiques as attacks and that's just from
Mm,
the my trauma, but I think that it's like, yeah, we are so quick. Like I think it comes down to like cancel culture. It's like we're so quick to want to cancel something, but it's like no, we're not trying to cancel it. We're just trying to talk about it and have a discussion about it.
right.
It's hard when you have shows like Succession and all these other white shows that are only applauded and only like it doesn't really feel like they get critiqued. So when you do see a critique of like a show, one that's a Latinx show, it's like, oh, like let's not. Can we just not? You know, it's like I don't know.
Yeah, I get you, but like the critiques should have been coming from within the room. They should have been coming from the executives. Like there were
Oh,
all these
totally.
steps at which they could have gotten better. And so then they put out something mediocre. And I know also like so many things can go wrong, on set in the edit. Like I totally get it. But then yeah, just kind of this lukewarm piece of content comes out and I'm like, okay, like I'm happy, we're out there and like we're making things, but I also don't want to applaud mediocrity because it's not going to move our content forward. And it's like it's why we're not winning Oscars and Emmys and like, getting put on these best of lists.
I guess what's the middle ground? Like where do you feel like it needs to get in order to start? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like what is the
Yeah.
solution to that? I'm trying to think.
I mean, just for me personally, I don't identify as a Latina writer. I am a writer who's Latina because
Yeah.
I just don't want to be put in a box where I'm only making like certain kinds of content. I I want to be seen, just as like a writer first and then my identity second, which we're not at a point in this industry because I've been on so many calls where people are like they're looking for diverse. They're looking to go diverse on this role or this writer whatever position. It's like what the fuck does diverse even mean? That's like a whole there's like so many cultures and identities that could be in that. But I think that's a big part of it is that the stories that are being told, a lot of them, not all of them, because there's some incredible Latina content out there also, are
Yeah.
yeah, are Latin that's like exactly it. They're like Latina. And I can imagine it's the same discourse that's being had in other minority groups as well, where they're like, I don't want this to be known as like an Asian film, like I just want this to be a film that has Asian people in it, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it has to be. It has to be like we need to just kind of take a step back from thinking that um we're all out to get one another maybe. It's like no, we just kind of want to like elevate the content that we're putting out there. I don't have a solution to this. I don't think any of us do, which is why we're kind of stuck.
Well, Angel and I are in a collective. I don't know if I've told you about this called Nuevo Hollywood. It's ourselves and two other of our friends who are creators that are Latina. And we essentially came together in 2019 to uphold each other to a higher standard and to create a space where we could like speak very openly, and talk about like what needs to be done essentially to make our work better as like individuals but also as a community. And it's been amazing. It's like wow, a lot of people share these same opinions, but a lot of people are too afraid to go on the record and say it.
Oh, I'm so afraid. I'm one of those people who was afraid. It's I am afraid. I don't want to hurt our chances of getting another show greenlit, essentially is what it is. You know? It's
Yeah.
like but you can't. I was just talking about this with Kay. You cannot approach things from like a fear mindset. You have to just really figure out how to take steps forward. Oh, and I want to circle back to what you were saying about the how people are not there's so many people like things people could be doing like what they did with you guys for the Ojalá lab, just
Mhm.
sticking their neck out like execs who are BIPOC execs who are Latine. I struggle to pronounce it, but
Mhm.
yeah, I had this experience with someone who was just like there was literally it was like the smallest thing. I think I've known them for like more than 6 years, there's the tiniest thing, like the tiniest ask that I bluntly just felt comfortable to ask them. I was like, could you do this? That could put this script in front of this other person. And it was such a blatant, like, no, that it was just so weird. I was like, interesting. Like, you could have just done this, like, tiny thing. Blew my mind. Blew my mind because it just confirmed that was like, I had a suspicion of the gatekeeping, and I had a suspicion of like, oh, we're only going to be pushing forward the Latina voices that have kind of reached a certain level and just gatekeep from there. And I was like,
Right.
oh, this sucks. Like, how do you expect
Yeah.
all of us to like move forward without you, helping me specifically take a step forward?
Yeah,
Um,
you and I and
yeah.
so many other people know that what's being said to the press and on camera and what's being done behind the scenes are two very different things. Like, they are not matching up.
No, it sucks. It's a real bummer. It's a real bummer to even like be associated to people sometimes who like, I don't know, I knew these people in the past coming up, and they definitely um went above and beyond in their careers, and then kind of a it feels like being forgotten, but B, it also feels like just like a blatant like lie. It's like, oh, you're genuinely saying that you want to like help the community, but you guys aren't actually doing anything to help the community. So it's just a
Yeah.
bummer, but that's why I'm just like, eh, I call people out because I'm just like, how else are we all gonna like get better?
Yeah, and there are people that have done it and have proven that maybe it's slightly more difficult, but not hugely. Like Tanya is another for another example, had an all Latina room for Vida and insisted on that, and the studio gave it to her. And it's like y'all could be doing that in other ways too. Like I just see, yeah, so many other chances or opportunities that are out there that are just keep getting missed.
I know, I know. I'm like hopeful that it'll change, and I'm hopeful that it's gonna get better. But I hate being hopeful. I want like solutions, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, let's figure it out, but it's not really up to me, right? It's like I can do small things, and hopefully that just, I don't know, changes things somehow. But anyway,
I mean, this podcast is like a great example of you doing that, though. It's like you're creating a platform and a space where people can come and talk about these issues where traditionally they were like, they couldn't share their opinions on it.
yeah, I think it's also just like wanting to get behind all the bullshit and like actually talk about the things that like all of the writers are feeling clearly, because you've spoken to you about it, I've spoken to other writers about it,
Mhm.
and it could be a whole other episode where we talk about kind of like executives and writers and that relationship and that dynamic, and how it's truly the only way upward, like to have people rooting for us who
Right.
are us but aren't rooting for us. It's just a very weird mind fuck. um okay, so what should we plug to wrap this up? I want to plug your script that I want to be would you ever be willing to like post it in a place where people can go read it that's not like the blacklist?
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind like sharing that.
Okay. I'll think of a way of like where you can upload it. I used to do that with my scripts and I forgot what it was exactly. But that'd be cool if people could read your script. Horn Dog, right?
Yeah. Hound
Okay.
Dog or the last one I wrote with Angels 44 Resting Place. I feel that that has been our I don't know, our masterpiece so far. Like every script, you come into your voice a little bit more, but I was like, I think this is the best thing we've ever written. So yeah, I totally don't mind sharing that. And also I copyright all my scripts, so if anybody tries to steal them, I'll sue them.
I know. Yeah, I'm never really afraid of the copywriting. So don't do it. You can't really do it. It's really hard to do. So just don't do it.
Yeah.
And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, would you be also be willing to share your shorts? Because I want to watch them, and I'm sure other people would want to watch them. Do you
Yeah,
have them
for
up
sure.
anywhere?
Yeah, yeah, I'll share them with you. So I've got my shorts, I've got 44 Resting Place, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing my own projects. I mean, the big plug is getting representation. So if anybody listening to this is an agent or a manager and is, looking for a writing team that like specializes in dark comedy but works really fast and has experience like working in the industry, come contact us.
Thank you so much.
No, this is awesome. Thanks so much for having me on the show, and yeah, I'm excited to see what 2024 holds for us.
I know, me too. I hope we can meet up in person once you're healed from your surgery. Wishing you a lot of like recovery and rest, because I know that's probably so hard.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very much in my Rear Window moment right now, if you like
Yeah.
get that reference.
Yes. I love that movie. I thought it was so weird. I literally watched it last year for the first time and I was like, what the fuck is this movie? It was so random, but it's fun. It's a good one. All right.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you
All right.
again.
Talk to you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.